Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight, commercial free on this Monday night. And the most shocking thing we have seen since October 7th and the atrocities committed by hundreds of Hamas Neanderthals has been the amount of support we've seen in the West for those heinous acts. Supporting Hamas has been made possible by the left's uncanny ability to deny reality and pretending years of land disputes between Israel and the Palestinians justify the decapitation of children and slaughter of more than 1,000 people as a response. The far left has jumped the shark again and reminded us that they believe one can never go too far in the pursuit of an equitable world, and that includes torturing and murdering families and scores of innocent people. You'll be happy to know the extreme corners of our LGBTQ community now support Hamas. Maybe you didn't realize that Allah loves equality, as this sign here says, despite the Quran saying just the opposite to these people, despite there being hard evidence against that throughout the Muslim world and the atrocities we've seen committed against LGBTQ people in all those countries to the east. Don't let that stop the rainbow mafia from aligning with terrorists who are thirsty for their blood. Check out this very on-brand display that we found in New York.
Queer rights, trans rights.
We say no to genocide.
Queer rights, trans rights.
We say no to genocide.
Something else. The ideological extremism has reached now the point of fantasy. Logic and reason no longer matter. We have trans people giving the middle finger to a Western world so overly sensitive to their plight that it looks the other way as they dance naked in front of kids. Well, and now they're aligning with a culture that views them as less than dogs and would likely call for their banishment or execution minutes after their arrival. Imagine being this lost in an ideology where reality no longer even matters whatsoever. And it's not just the LGBTQ mob, it's our universities, our media, and other bastions of left-wing radicalism in this country. In addition to Hamas, the West is up against an internal threat, a faction so obsessed with equity that it's cheering on its own self-destruction and identifying with heathens who massacre and rape. Hamas could never have dreamed that they'd see support like this coming out of the West. Did you have any idea that you were surrounded by people that are this ideologically warped? You probably knew our universities were very ugly, very Marxist, very backwards, but did you believe that we'd already built a Western suicide cult and it would be activated this quickly? The scary thing is, Israel's loss of support is even wider than just the loony left. The media is slowly turning against Israel as well, as October 7th disappears from our memory more and more every day, and the situation in Gaza becomes the fresh tragedy. The uninformed masses out there, led by a mostly dishonest media, have been able to blame Israel for the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. You're hearing that everywhere right now. And they do this while somehow ignoring Hamas's role, and that's pretty much the only role that matters. A reminder that this is what the terror group Hamas really thinks of the residents of Gaza.
Many people are asking, since you have built 500 kilometers of tunnels, why haven't you built bomb shelters where civilians can hide during bombardments? Everybody knows that 75% of the people in the Gaza Strip are refugees, and it is the responsibility of the United Nations to protect them. According to the Geneva Conventions, it is the responsibility of the occupation to provide them with all services, as long as they are under occupation.
So it's the UN's responsibility to make sure that our people don't get killed. Joe Biden has given that $100 million in aid since October 7th. It's not their responsibility. The government of Gaza says it's not their responsibility to protect their own people as they spend all of their money on ways to kill Jews. Whatever gets to the people of Gaza, of all the money we've dumped into that little piece of land, would have first been stolen by Hamas and then sold to the people inside of Gaza. The money used to finance terror, like everything else that we send in there is. Everything that goes into Gaza benefits a terror group that uses its own people and lets them die. And yet that outrage is nowhere to be found in the West. The anger is aimed squarely at Israel as they try to dismantle a terrorist government that operates inside their own country, that spews this kind of nonsense while hiding behind civilians.
I have said this before, and I say it time again. The blood of their women, children, and elderly. I am not saying that this blood is calling for your help. We're the ones who need this blood, so it awakens within us the revolutionary spirit. So it awakens within us resolve. So it awakens within us the spirit of challenge and pushes us to move forward.
The blood, that's what they want. That's the enemy that the coffee shop university elites are whitewashing so that they can attempt to stay consistent and continue to pose as champions for the oppressed around the world. And what started as being pro-Palestinian has morphed into pro-Hamas. Take a listen to a description of what millions of Americans apparently now support, a story shared at a Republican Jewish coalition event over the weekend.
They came into her house in front of her kids. They opened up her stomach. She was pregnant. They opened up her stomach, took out the baby and stabbed the little tiny baby in front of her and then shot her in front of her family. And then they killed the rest of the kids.
We got thousands of people in this country running around all over the place, especially in our universities, and screaming in support of what you just heard described. They do it with a straight face, and they don't care. They don't care how stupid they are. They don't care how uninformed they are. In fact, they're the smartest of us, is what they believe. They go to Yale and Brown, Harvard. That story doesn't offend the radicals inside our universities. That was deserved, they believe. And that's what we're up against here at home. And for those dumb enough to idealize Hamas as freedom fighters for the Palestinian people, for anyone so indoctrinated, so clueless, so warped, Hamas is laughing as you push their agenda. It is a typical radical grift, the same as all the others. From an Israeli business publication, the Hamas leadership built its wealth mainly through the booming tunnel industry, Hamas officials imposing taxes, generally 20% on all goods smuggled through the tunnels. So whatever they'll let get through so that their people can eat, they make a fortune off of. The top of Hamas, the ones sending these Neanderthals into Israel to commit these atrocities, are getting filthy rich, with most living in poverty. There are hundreds of millionaires in Gaza, hundreds of millionaires, including, of course, the top leadership, getting very rich off all the Western guilt money that gets sent in. Western governments blindly sending in tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars every chance they get to make themselves feel better.